welcome to our first application for Unit 3A. This is going to be application 3A-7, solving by square root. Our learning target is that I can solve quadratic equations by factoring. So when we are looking at solving by square roots, we're going to be mainly looking today at problems that are describing the height of a falling object. And anytime we are talking about the height of a falling object, at least on Earth, we're going to be using this formula below. So not only are we going to use this formula in the first problem, you're going to want to refer back to this in some of the other problems that don't necessarily spell out the formula for you. Now, within this formula, h naught is how we would read that, is going to be our initial height. It's going to be how high the object is that we are dropping when we start out. H is going to be the ending height. So like it would be how far off the ground it was at the end. So we're going to want to use that formula to help us as we work through these problems. So the tallest building in the United States is in Chicago, Illinois. It is 1,450 feet tall. I'll move that so you guys can get a better glimpse at that. So 1,450 feet tall. We want to know how long it would take a penny to drop from the top of the building to the ground. So we're going to have to use this formula and the little bit of information we're given up here. So we do know that the building is 1,450 feet tall. Now, we're dropping from the top of the building, so that is also going to be our initial height. Our initial height will be that 1,450. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my formula. Alright. Now also, I'm going to go ahead and we want to know how long it's going to take to hit the ground. So we're going to say that the ground is going to be 0 feet. If you are on the ground level, you aren't any distance above it. You're 0 feet above the ground. So we're going to let our height, our ending height, be 0. So we're going to plug this in, negative 16 t squared plus 1,450. And remember, when we're solving using square roots, we want to get the term with the t squared all by itself. So I'm going to have to first subtract 1,450 from both sides. So I'm going to end up with a negative 1,450 equals negative 16t squared. Now remember, I'm trying to get this t squared by itself. I still do not have it by itself. I still have a negative 16 attached to it. So I'm going to have to divide both sides by a negative 16. And if I go ahead and open up my calculator, we'll wait for this to pop up here in just a second. We know that we're dividing a negative by a negative, so we're going to get a positive. So I'm going to do 1,450, and we want that negative, divided by a 16 that is negative, and we're going to get 90.625. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. We're going to go back to our smartboard. 90.625 is equal to t squared. Now remember, to undo a square, we have to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And when we do so, we would normally do both plus and minus the square root of that, because we can have a negative square root or a positive, a negative root rather, or a positive root. But if we do some critical thinking, we know that when you drop a penny, you're measuring time in something positive. When you are dropping an object, you can't fall for a negative amount of time. So we're only going to actually be interested in the positive square root of 90.625. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my calculator back up, and I'm going to take the square root of that, and we're going to get that it is 9.52. We'll go ahead and round to 2 decimal places. 9.52. And this formula does measure time in seconds. We didn't state that from the beginning, but when you are using this formula, it is going to be in seconds. Alright, so that will walk you through one of these problems. Again, just a reminder, not all of the problems are going to give you the formula, but in this application when we're dealing with falling objects, the formula we're going to want to use is this h equals negative 16t squared plus h0, or h naught. We'll plug in our initial height here, we'll plug in the ending height here, and then you can solve for the t squared and take your square root and have your answer. Alright, so go ahead and complete application 3A-7 and then prepare for your mastery check. Good luck!